whether so vile has the online abuse been, and it's been going on for the last 18 months or so, accusations of bias, and actually people warning her online, saying, you deserve what's coming to you, etc., etc. Really nasty. So she's got this bodyguard, and that led to a big news story yesterday. And today, surprise, surprise, we've got the internet trolls who are now saying that she's playing the victim, and it's all really a cooked-up conspiracy by a biased BBC. But I think this subject raises what I think is a bigger, much more important and really fundamental question. You see, my view is that we no longer, as a society, have the respect for other people who have differing views to us. Now, increasingly, if somebody else takes a different view, we think they should be vilified. We think they should be condemned. In fact, we even think, there are large sections of society that think, that the views that are held by some people are not acceptable views to hold. Something, folks, I put it to you, I think is going very badly wrong with our tradition of free speech, democracy, and respecting the rights of other people to have their say. Now, you may say to me, well, in the past, lots of people didn't state their view because they preferred to keep their politics and their current affairs private. And fine, I understand that. But my feeling, and tell me I'm wrong, my feeling is that increasingly we're now scared, whether it's at work or at the pub, or even if the relations come round for Sunday afternoon tea, I think we're becoming increasingly scared of saying what we think for fear we're going to be abused, looked down upon, or thought to be worse as people. So tell me I'm right, tell me I'm wrong, answer me the question, given the amount of anger out there, are you now afraid to state your politics? Are you a Brexiteer who's at university who fears if he or she says they voted Brexit that you'll get shouted down, perhaps even sent to Coventry? Call me on 0345 6060973. Maybe you're a Corbynista who's working for a bank in the City of London, and again you think, gosh, if I tell people what I think, nobody will have a drink with me at lunchtime, I'll be sent to Coventry, or I'll start to get horrible online abuse. Text me on 84850, and tonight's show is a confessional. So please come on air and tell me, have you been frightened out, chickened out of saying what you think for fear you'll start to get abuse, or it'll affect your performance at work, or whatever it may be? And you can, of course, text using the hashtag Farage and LBC at LBC. You can watch me live, of course, on Facebook, here from Washington, and comment there as well. And I'm going to go straight to Thomas in Worthing. Thomas, tell me, am I right in thinking that we don't have the sort of to and fro of debate in our lives, respecting the point of view that somebody else has?
Oh, God, yes, absolutely. It's a really strange coincidence. I was in the supermarket today in my town, and I got threatened by somebody for daring to laugh at the front page of a newspaper featuring Jeremy Corbyn. It had a picture of Jeremy Corbyn, looking slightly crazy, and it had the front page title, "We're coming for you, the Tories," and no Tory seat is safe. And he said, why have they selected a picture of him looking crazy? And I laughed and said, looking crazy? And he looked at me and he said, people like you are going to have to be very careful because we're coming for you. And this is... We're coming for you.
And this is in Worthing, Thomas. This is in sleepy Worthing.
I'm sure it's a coincidence that Jeremy Corbyn was here 3 days ago, celebrating the Labour Party councillor that recently got elected. First Labour Party councillor elected in something like 40 years. But the other thing I wanted to mention to you, actually, is I tried to come to a meeting that you had for UKIP in Hove a few years ago.
Oh.
On that occasion, I was spat at, and I couldn't get into the venue.
Yeah. Well, Thomas, thank you for raising that. That was a meeting I did in Worthing a few years ago, and a group who call themselves Unite Against Fascism. So they must be lovely people, mustn't they? Because they're against bad things. They turned up. A lot of them turned up, and I remember them being outside the hall, waving European Union flags, spitting at members of the public, abusing members of the public, calling them Nazis and worse. And it got so bad, Thomas, that next door to the hall next door to the hall where the meeting was, there was a blood bank in operation where members of the public were queuing up to give blood, and they had to close it down. And that was, that was in late 2012 was when that happened, that meeting in Worthing, and it was the first or second time that this had happened to me in politics, and it then happened to me, Thomas, 200 to 300 times. 200 to 300 times, I would organise meetings, and people like you, members of the public, would come along, some of them believers, some of them opponents, some of them open-minded, they'd come along to engage in a democratic process to basically be terrorised out of even going into the meeting.
Well, I suppose a 30-something disabled chap on crutches proposed a very imposing figure. It was actually in Hove, it wasn't in Worthing, but it's just
Hove,
it boggles the mind, and this goes on all the time. You know, you look at social networking sites, the abuse that goes on to anybody that doesn't hold this very liberal or socialist ideology. It is absolutely disgusting, and it's only getting worse.
So did you being spat at, trying to come and hear me talk, did that stop you going into the meeting completely?
Yeah, I couldn't get in. I didn't think it was safe for me to get in. I mean, I've recently had a very nasty knee accident that had left me not very stable on my feet, so I decided not to come in. I have seen you, actually, before in conference, but, I mean, it's just, we have reached this point in politics, which isn't actually spoken about in the national media, where people are being threatened.
No, because I think, and you know, there are exceptions to this, but in general, it's painted out that people on the right are evil, nasty, ghastly, and people on the left who give themselves banners about uniting against fascism and being all about love and hope and all the rest of it are somehow very nice, when in fact their behaviour isn't just threatening, isn't just violent, it's anti-democratic, and it stops the process from happening. Thomas, a very good witness account. I thank you very much indeed for that. So, Julia, in Lewisham, do you feel as free to speak your opinions these days as you might have done years ago?
Yes, I do. And just before I go into that, I just very quickly wanted to mention that you brought up Laura Kuenssberg. I assume that you are as concerned for Gina Miller. Many of her sort of those who are trolling her and making terrible threats against her are probably great supporters of yours. So I'm sure that you feel...
I very much doubt that. But do you know something? Do you know something? If when I was leading UKIP, if my members had turned up and surrounded Peter Mandelson and hurled abuse at him, I mean, I would have been painted out to be the biggest villain that had lived in Britain since 1945, and I'm pleased to say nothing like that ever happened. Doesn't mean there aren't people who are Eurosceptic that say bad things on the internet. Certainly, Julia, I accept that point. I accept that point. But what I am saying, and what Thomas in Worthing was saying, is I don't think that our general media debate on this has been very objective, because people on the left wrap themselves up in these banners to say they're all about love and hope, and in reality, not all of them, of course, but a lot of them are actually quite violent and very nasty.
Well, yes, I fully agree. First of all, that threats and violent language, or worse, is absolutely not acceptable from the left or from the right. And that when we're having that, then we're certainly not having rigorous intellectual debate. But rigorous intellectual debate has to stay alive. And I think the other thing that I really wanted to say is that politics inherently deals with moral issues, and therefore there are some things within politics where we get to expressing views which may be deemed not humane or not very nice, and people have a right to sort of come back on that, I think.
Julia, I would agree with that totally.
Yeah.
And I'm not arguing that people's views shouldn't be challenged very vigorously. The bit that I've got the problem with, Julia, is I'm hearing a line of argument from some that say, not only do I disagree with your view, I don't think you've got the right or you're entitled to hold that view. And because of it, I'm going to call you appalling, abusive names.
Yes, well, I can't in any way agree with calling people appalling or abusive names. But I think if you have a strong argument, you can probably come back against the sort of name callers, and you can hold your argument. And I think that's what whatever side we're coming from, we have to stick to. And ultimately, if we are making weak and unethical arguments, they will be and should be torn apart. And I think they should be torn apart, but they should not be torn apart by silly or vile comments.
Yeah, I mean, to an extent, Julia, it is a case, isn't it, of sticks and stones may break my bones,
right,
but words may never hurt me. And I do understand that, and I do want rigorous debate. It's just this rather menacing threat of violence that appears to be out there. And I'm wondering, Julia, whether the really big change and why things have got worse is something called the internet.
Sure, and it encourages cowardice, and it doesn't encourage sort of deep thought and proper contemplation on things. So yes, probably the internet is the problem.
Julia, we're at one on that. Thank you, Julia. Yeah, I've noticed that. Lots and lots of people on Twitter, late at night, are the bravest people. They'd all win Victoria Crosses, and yet, in real life, they probably wouldn't say boo to a goose. You're listening to The Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC, live from here in Washington, where it's 2:15, which means it must be 7:15 in London.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast on LBC.
Jeremy Corbyn is accused of behaving like an ostrich over anti-Semitism by one of his own Labour Party members. Edward is in Barnet.
You could look back through quite a few regimes over time who said that they didn't tolerate racism or other forms of discrimination, and we just know it's not true. I just think that it's so easy for the left to turn a blind eye to so many of the things that are going on.
Angela's in Hackney.
The argument with the Jewish Labour movement, their aim is to get rid of Jeremy Corbyn by any means.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast.
With Hampton by Hilton. Book direct for the lowest price.
Every weekday morning from 7, only on LBC.
Is your company innovative, successful, or rapidly growing? If so, it's likely that you'll be carrying out all sorts of research and development, even if you don't think of it as such. Contact Barnes Rofe to find out if you qualify for an R&D tax credit claim. We'll help you make a claim and obtain a refund of the correct amount of tax for you. Sound interesting? Visit barnesrofe.com. Barnes Rofe. Clever accountants for business.
Oh, I said, let's get a new kitchen, like I was getting a coffee. What was I thinking? Demolishing a room and making a new one? Who does this? And how am I an actual grown-up? Relax. It's Trust a Trader. Just type in your postcode, what you need, and bam, local tradespeople appear. All who know what they're doing. For realsies. Oh, maybe I should get a new bathroom too. And a dress-up room. And a room for the kittens. Visit trustatrader.com.
Trustatrader.com. Hi, I've just been to the tickets to be checked, and it shows I actually won the top prize on the raffle.
Right, well, congratulations. You have indeed won £1 million. £1
million? Oh my God, I've got butterflies everywhere. It doesn't seem real, actually.
That's brilliant, Mandy. Another Lotto winner. Get your ticket for Wednesday's draw. Lotto. Who wins if you win? Rules and procedures apply. Players must be 16 or over.
Your journey is always more pleasurable with Aeroflot Russian Airlines. Our young fleet flies to an enormous range of destinations. Come and experience true hospitality delivered by our expert cabin crew and pilots, made even better by the choice of exquisite cuisine served on board. Then just sit back, relax, and enjoy the comfort of our state-of-the-art aircraft. You'll find you've enjoyed yourself before you've even landed. Fly Aeroflot.
Ooh, winter can hit you hard if your boiler's not up to it. So make sure your home or business stays a step ahead this winter with a new boiler from British Gas for half price. You'll still get our full fixed price guarantee and our full 5-year warranty. And you'll only pay full price for the installation. Oh, and don't worry, you will get a full boiler. It's only the price we've cut in half. But hurry, this half-price offer ends 31st of October. Get yours now and be a step ahead this winter. Search British Gas New Boiler. Conditions apply.
Award-winning Howarth Homes is delighted to announce the forthcoming release of their latest luxury development, Teddington Gate. A secure private development of just 35 individually designed and highly specified 1- and 2-bedroom apartments. Minutes from both High Street and Mainline Station. Teddington Gate represents a rare opportunity to buy a fabulous new home, a short stroll from stunning Royal Bushy Park. Prices starting at just $359,995. Register now for our sales event on the 29th and 30th of September by visiting teddingtongate.com.
This is LBC, the Nigel Farage Show. Live from Washington. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Tweet at LBC using the hashtag Farage on LBC.
We're living in an age of intolerance and political abuse. I think much of it spawned by the internet and the fact that people can say things in a pretty anonymous way and often say them late at night when they might be under the influence of something. I think that's all got something to do with it. Lots of opinions coming in, because I'm asking you, have you been afraid to express your opinion at home, at work, in the pub, wherever it may be, because you fear you might become subject to abuse or trolling or whatever it may be? And I get an anonymous tweet here. It says, Nigel Farage, you were responsible for much of the anger felt in the UK. Well, thank you very much for that. All I've tried to do is to argue that not being part of the European Union would be more democratic and that controlling our borders is sensible. But yeah, you're right. Actually, whoever you are, you're right. A lot of people are very angry about that. In fact, they're so angry about it, they've tried for 4 years to stop me even speaking about it. They tried, and we had our first caller tonight who'd attempted to come to a public event I was doing in Hove a few years ago, who was spat at by pro-EU protesters and was too frightened to come into the meeting. So I do understand the anger, and I'm perfectly happy with people being annoyed with me, disagreeing with me in every way. But when it resorts to violence, not just against me, but members of the public, there's something very seriously wrong. Chris Edmonds says, all views are valid, even ones we don't want in a free world. And we must remember that, except, of course, in Mr Juncker's future European Union, it would seem. Chris, obviously, of a Eurosceptic persuasion. Why isn't there a law against political intimidation? Isn't it a block on democracy? Why do the Tories do nothing? Well, Alan, why doesn't anyone do anything? But again, I make the point, there is a difference between people speaking their mind, disagreeing, but respecting the right of somebody else to have a different point of view. And that's where we've gone wrong. We've got universities all over the country, no platforming people with views that they may not like, and they've taken the view in some of these universities that particular political opinion shouldn't even be heard. I don't like it. I think it's very, very dangerous and very bad. Martin in Leicester is my next caller. Martin, have you ever been, intimidated effectively out of speaking your mind?
Good evening, Nigel.
Good evening.
No, quite frankly, I see myself as quite lucky to be in a country where I can express myself freely. And those who, disagree with my opinion, I welcome. They can welcomely share their own opinions. However, I don't agree with the way that they sometimes enforce their opinions upon people. I feel as if the left, especially, enforce their opinions so much on you that you're somewhat compared to, dare I say, the Nazis. If you are any far to the right in your political beliefs.
Yeah, that's the kind of word they use, isn't it?
That is correct.
But we have Martin, I can tell you of many, many occasions when, in fact, it happened once when I went out with the LBC crew on a Thursday night. At the end of the week, we went to a London pub, we had a drink to talk about the week and how the whole thing had gone. We'd been in there 10 or 15 minutes, and somebody had tweeted out, Nigel Farage is in such and such a pub. This is who he's with. Why don't we all go down there and rough him up? And that's where we've got to, Martin, in our country today. Something has gone wrong. I wonder what it is.
Yeah, I believe that social media has got a way of doing it, but also I believe that social media is also a massive platform that, obviously, because I'm under 25, I'm in the under 25 demographic, where people can openly express themselves through memes and such, political memes. I know that there's quite a few. I know that you yourself have actually gone down the meme route of RT this to trigger a liberal last night on Twitter. That was perfectly timed, and I tell you what, I actually applauded you on that.
Well, but you see that was humour, wasn't it? That was me having a laugh.
Oh, completely. There are many that I could say on Facebook. The Nigel Farage, God save our gracious Farage, King Nigel I of UKIP. there are so many people backing you through memes, and whenever I share these memes, I'm replied back with a massive hatred. Oh, this man's the worst thing since Thatcher, Enoch Powell. You've been compared to on my Facebook. And I dare say even Hitler, but I don't believe that you've gone down the Hitler route. You're like, no.
Well, you know, David Lammy today at the Labour Party conference, really did appear to imply that Brexit supporters, specifically me and Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson, were Nazis. He said Johnson is playing a game, and the game he is playing is the worst game in politics. It's entirely self-serving, but how much does he care about the white working class, really? If he gains, he's fine, and we must stand up to that, because the same nasty politics is what we saw in the 20s and 30s, and look where it led to. And he says it's not a joke to put Nigel Farage on TV panel shows every week. It's not funny. Maybe this is fair comment from David Lammy. Maybe you think, folks, it is. Or maybe you think, actually, we're getting to a point where we're beginning to say, not I disagree with this person, not here is why I think he's wrong, but we're going for the man and not the ball. And that's happening time and time again. Martin, I thank you for your call. Jodie in Portsmouth. Jodie, good evening.
Hello, Nigel. Nice to speak with you.
Good evening.
I just wanted to call up and just say that I don't mind, people calling me bad names online, because I'm a UKIP supporter or I'm a Trump supporter.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But one point it actually crossed over into my personal life. Because I have where I work, well, I did on my Facebook page. I actually had someone email my work on the inquiries line telling them that they employed a racist. The email was awful, absolutely awful. So I don't mind debating people online, but when it crosses over to your personal life like that, it was absolutely mortifying. And it does make you go, it goes through your mind about being silenced and, should I post this? Should I post that? But me being me, I didn't, I'll carry on, saying what I want to say. But yeah, I would say that it is, hard to say your opinion nowadays. It is.
I think it's becoming harder and harder, Jodie, and I think where it crosses over into people's work life, that's really, really bad news. I wonder if you've been a Corbynista, whether they'd have written to your employer to say, do you realise that Jodie supports extreme left-wing politics? I somehow don't think so, Jodie, do you?
No, and I also had an incident. I was wearing a UKIP badge because I'm a proud UKIPper, as you might have concluded, and I was wearing it, and I was getting the bus home one night, and I stepped on the bus, and a lady turned around to me, and she went, "You're brave," and I thought that was really sad. So it was kind of the start of that kind of silencing. If you've got that opinion, you're not allowed to say it anymore because it's not the mainstream or perceived as. So that was quite sad, I thought.
Yeah. No. And it does make us think twice, doesn't it? It really, really does. No, sad. Jodie, interesting. Thank you for that. And Jodie making it clear that actually she's very happy to give her view. But when people start anonymously emailing her workplace and calling her racist because she supports a particular point of view, then, she begins to have a problem. I wonder whether Lee in Bedford has suffered because of his opinions. Good evening.
Hello, Nigel. How are you?
Hi, fine, thank you.
Good. Yeah, the free speech and all that, it's very, very blurred and murky. It's a case like you can have a debate and discuss things to a certain point, but when you cross into certain things that the left don't want to discuss, when it's staring you in the face, like with terrorism and other certain things, it's like taboo, get away from me, I don't want to know.
Yeah, no, that's right.
I was called a racist today because on a course that I'm doing, because I said about this Parsons Green bomber, I said I won't be surprised, I put money on it, that he's a refugee. And then what comes out, it found out that he's one of these refugees. And I said, how the hell can we keep letting people into the country when you don't know their backgrounds? It's going, you've got all this stuff, extremism going on under our nose. The left are too quick to jump on the right, but where are they when, you got extremist marches going on? You don't see them. But when you've got a Britain First march or an EDL march, they're all out in force. Hope Not Hate, Unite Against Fascism, calling them all the F's and C's under the sun. But they're the ones, Hope Not Hate and Antifa, they're the ones that all got their faces covered.
No, well, I know, wearing masks, which I hate. Lee, fair point. Some people say it goes the other way. I get an anonymous. They're always anonymous on Twitter, I don't know why. My 18-year-old son was spat on campaigning to Remain. Your show is heavily biased towards your view only. As always, this text won't get read out because you're biased. No, I'm not. I want to have a proper debate. I think there is more of it happening the other way around. But, come on, tell me I'm wrong. Ring me up on 0345 6060 973 and tell me that people who voted to leave the European Union have led violent protests against those that want to remain. I want to hear from you. Let me know. I'll also tonight be telling you about the online auction to have lunch with me on a Friday for a proper Friday afternoon to raise some money for charity. But right now, you're listening to the Nigel Farage Show here from Washington, D.C. It's 7:30 and it's time for the news with Moira Alderson.
Jeremy Corbyn says it's right to look at all the scenarios after his shadow chancellor suggested there could be a run on the pound if Labour gets into government. John McDonnell says Labour's doing war game-type planning for a variety of events. 3 men arrested in South Wales over the Parsons Green bombing on the London Underground have been released without charge. 2 were detained in Newport last Tuesday and Wednesday. The third was held in Cardiff yesterday. Tributes have been paid to one of Coronation Street's best-loved stars, Liz Dawn, who's died at the age of 77. She played Vera Duckworth for more than 30 years. LBC weather turning windy in the west overnight, some patchy drizzle in the north, staying mostly clear elsewhere with an overnight low of 14 degrees.
LBC travel, and on the M4 eastbound there's a lane blocked on the exit slip road. That's at junction 8 for Maidenhead, and it's because of a breakdown. In Eltham, the South Circular, that's queuing in both directions between Clifton's roundabout and Westhorn Avenue. That's all because of roadworks. In Guildford, and it's slow moving on the A3 southbound. That's near to the wooden bridge. It's because a car has broken down and the inside lane is blocked. And on the tubes, the Piccadilly line has severe delays after an earlier signal failure at Hammersmith. LBC Travel, I'm Anne-Marie Walsh.
This is LBC.
Whoever they want to be in life, give them a great start with WellKid. Carefully balanced, great-tasting vitamins and minerals for 4 to 12-year-olds, with specific nutrients such as zinc and vitamin D, which support normal immune system function. The WellKid range from Vitabiotics, from Boots, pharmacies and Vitabiotics.com.
Oh, I said, let's get a new kitchen, like I was getting a coffee. What was I thinking? Demolishing a room and making a new one? Who does this? And how am I an actual grown-up? Relax, relax. It's Trust a Trader. Just type in your postcode, what you need, and bam, local tradespeople appear. All who know what they're doing. For realsies. Oh, maybe I should get a new bathroom too. And a dress-up room. And a room for the kittens. Visit trustatrader.com.
Trustatrader.com. A luxury lodge, cosy nights in, 10 beautiful parks across the UK. The perfect break from the Dream Lodge Group. Get 40% off an autumn break in an exclusive offer only available here. Text DREAM to 81025 right now. Stay from just £148 per night. Sleep up to 4 people with your own hot tub and exclusive wine or gourmet offers. 2 nights minimum stay. Get your exclusive break here. Text DREAM to 81025.
Your journey is always more pleasurable with Aeroflot Russian Airlines. Our young fleet flies to an enormous range of destinations. Come and experience true hospitality delivered by our expert cabin crew and pilots, made even better by the choice of exquisite cuisine served on board. Then just sit back, relax, and enjoy the comfort of our state-of-the-art aircraft. You'll find you've enjoyed yourself before you've even landed. Fly Aeroflot.
Welcome to the meter cupboard at 49 Acacia Avenue. For years now, the Websters have been scrabbling around in the dark taking meter readings, trying to get Gaz and Lecky under control. Not anymore. They call their energy supplier to get a smart meter installed. From now on, they won't have to take a meter reading to get an accurate bill. Only your energy supplier can carry out your smart meter installation, so contact them today.
Is your company innovative, successful, or rapidly growing? If so, it's likely that you'll be carrying out all sorts of research and development, even if you don't think of it as such. Contact Barnes Rofe to find out if you qualify for an R&D tax credit claim. We'll help you make a claim and obtain a refund of the correct amount of tax for you. Sound interesting? Visit barnesrofe.com. Barnes Rofe, clever accountants for business.
Pets, we positively love them. So for those times they're feeling rough, get pet insurance from Pets in a Pickle. Go to petsinnapickle.co.uk.
The Nigel Farage Show, live from Washington only on LBC.
Trolling, abuse, no platforming at universities. I think we're becoming a far less tolerant society in terms of respecting the fact that other people in a democracy have a right to free speech and a right to hold different points of view. And I'm asking you, have you ever felt in your workplace, your home, or wherever it may be, that you no longer can speak your mind because, there might be people taking horrible reprisals against you? And by the way, before the break, I talked about David Lammy's speech in Brighton today, where he says that basically Farage and Johnson are leading us to a situation where Nazism could return. And in the interest of free speech, David Lammy, I think what you've done here is you've gone for the man and not the bull. But if you want to ring 0345 6060 973, David, we'd be happy to have you on in the course of the next 25 minutes and discuss it. No problem at all. Two other stories that have caught my eye today. The first one is John McDonnell, the Shadow Chancellor, being interviewed this morning and saying the party was wargaming, scenario planning for events such as a run on the pound if Labour get elected. And I'm a little bit surprised that he said that. I mean, basically what he's saying... I mean, by the way, not that I think necessarily a pound being weaker at times is a bad thing, because I don't, but he's basically saying that the international markets would take the view, if Labour formed a majority government, that their running of the public finances would be so poor that the pound would likely fall. So that really surprised me, because I think so far the Labour conference, they haven't made that many mistakes, frankly. But the other one I love is, I love it when the unelected leaders of Europe come to Downing Street. The last time, do you remember, it was Jean-Claude Juncker who turned up for dinner with Theresa May, and it was leaked shortly afterwards that he thought the British Prime Minister was delusional, which we all said we thought was pretty rude. Well, today, somebody very important from Brussels has been to Downing Street, Donald Tusk. I wonder how many of you even know who Donald Tusk is. He's a former Polish Prime Minister, and he is the President of the European Council. He's there for a 5-year term, so he is one of the big three presidents of the European project, and he came today to Downing Street, and he stood on the steps responding to Mrs May's speech. Remember, she was in Florence last week saying how wonderful the whole European Union thing was, and how, whilst we were leaving, we would rejoin virtually every part of it. And he said that the UK's philosophy of having a cake and eating it is finally coming to an end, which he welcomed, but he said there is not sufficient progress yet. So the unelected commissar has come to the satellite state that is still the United Kingdom and said it's not good enough. Donald Tusk grew up under a system of communism where the Soviets, under their doctrine of limited sovereignty, would say what a Pole or a Czech government could or could not do. And I think in some ways he's now behaving like it. Now, I say that, am I perhaps guilty? Am I perhaps guilty of stirring things up? No, because I'm not urging violence against Donald Tusk, and I'm not urging that we shouldn't listen to his point of view or no platform him at the Oxford Union. I just disagree with him, and I think this very, very arrogant tone that unelected bureaucrats take, particularly when they come here, is something that pretty much gets up our nose. Helen sends me a tweet. She says, even holding gentle centre-right views is disapproved of by the bullying left. There's something very ugly in our schools and universities. Helen, I absolutely agree with you. Something is wrong. Pity today's society cannot behave in politics. Maybe we should copy the standards of left-right citizens who fought tyranny and came back after the last war. That's a text. I don't know who from, but you know something? I remember I remember a couple of old fellas that lived in my village where I grew up, and one was very much on the right, and one was very much on the left, and they used to have huge arguments and debates in the pub, and fall out with each other hugely, and the next day they were the best of friends, because they recognised, as people who'd fought through a war that had cost us and others a vast amount, it was their right to free speech and to respect the fact somebody else had a different point of view. It's that, folks, that I think we're losing. Judith is calling from Almeria in Spain. Judith, good evening.
Good evening, Nigel. Nice to speak to you.
So tell me, living in Spain, living in Spain, can you speak freely?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, they're much more tolerant here. You can say what you think and nobody shouts you down. You can totally disagree with each other, but at the end of the day, you're still friends. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen in the UK, does it? I remember years ago, because I used to be a Tory activist, being at a party conference, I can't remember, it was 1980 or 82. The Socialist Workers' Party greeted us as we came out of conference. They spit, they kicked, they punched the air, and quite frankly, if there hadn't been a line of post offices there, we'd have all been on the floor. And it was quite frightening. And it's getting worse.
So why is it,
worse.
Judith? Why is it? I mean, this is, you're talking now 35 years ago.
Yeah.
So why is it that these groups on the left behave like this and rarely seem to get criticised in public for doing so?
I don't know, but then the problem also is that the media is totally left-wing. So they're not going to criticise, are they?
Well, it's not all left-wing, actually. I mean, we do... I tell you what, Judith, we have a much more balanced media in the UK than most of the rest of Europe does, in my view. But no, the point you make, Judith, is this has been going on for some time. But I just think, and Judith, my view, is the internet has just made it a whole lot worse.
Yes, it has, especially Twitter and things like that, yes. I mean,
no, it really
Laura Koonsberg, for instance, it's quite disgraceful. You might not agree with whatever way she reports the news, but she's entitled to her opinion, as is everybody else. But unfortunately, you can't state your opinion anymore in the UK, can you?
Well, in a sense,
without
I suppose... I suppose Laura Koonsberg isn't really supposed to have an opinion. She's supposed to report objectively. And I know that anybody in the media will get accused by either side of bias. But the fact that she's had to resort to a bodyguard doesn't say much, in my opinion, for the state of the modern Labour Party. Judith, I thank you for your long-distance call. Suzanne says, we seem to be in a state of being scared to say anything. Yeah, Suzanne, that is my contention. I think increasingly people are actually scared to say anything. My next caller is Fumi, who's calling from Baker Street. Good evening.
Evening. Hi, Nigel.
Hello.
So, my question is, the views of the man who murdered Joe Cox. I mean, you could argue that he just has an opinion, right? That ended up in her death. So if you're with your opening gambit of saying that everybody is entitled to their opinion, regardless of the fact of if it actually is an opinion where they believe somebody else shouldn't have, right? And if we're talking about something resulting in violence and something that's in the hearts and minds of many British people in this country, that would be a perfect example of it. I don't remember in recent events in this country where views on the left have resulted in the death of somebody. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I haven't come across somebody who's fighting for liberty and freedom.
Well, I think you could argue
on the left. Mm-hmm.
Well, you could well argue that it's views on the left that have led to all sorts of security lapses, increasing problems of terrorism. You could argue this around the houses. But look, what we're debating here is whether we can freely express our views. Now, the view of somebody who is a loner, who's clearly deranged, that view was never debated in public. And had that view been debated in public, of course it would have been condemned by absolutely everybody. But the point but we never heard that opinion, do we? But what I'm saying to you is, I don't think we feel as free to express our opinions or to respect the fact that other people are entitled to a different point of view. And I think this has reached crisis point.
So if we go with that logic, is he allowed to have that opinion? Was that perfectly fine for him to have that viewpoint? I mean, racism is a viewpoint.
Well, no, he had.
These are all viewpoints. So are all of these things?
No, well, that's why he's in prison.
In the world
but that's why he's in. That's why he's in prison, isn't it? What is incredible, I think, what is totally incredible about what has happened to our debate in this country, is the left have got such power, and particularly, I think, on social media, where they do seem to be better at it and to dominate in many, many ways, that views that are majority views in the country, I mean big majority views, for example, controlling our borders, being sensible about immigration, I mean that's a view, Fumi, that 75% of people in Britain have, that we should have a degree of control over our borders, and yet there are people out there who are scared to express that opinion because of the abuse they get from a minority who don't think they're even entitled to hold that view. That's what I'm saying.
Well, that's a perfect example, right? So has somebody who's held the view that they are pro-EU resulted in violence? Or has somebody who's held...
Yes. Oh, I've said... Oh, yes.
Because actually, Joe Cox died because of the person, because of
I've seen pro-EU violence. I've seen pro-EU violence on the streets of Britain every single
day. You have to be honest, because you're painting
I tell you what,
here.
I think Mr. Juncker's policy of admitting anybody will lead to an awful lot. No one's arguing. No one's arguing there is a monopoly of violence and nastiness. What I am saying, that when it comes to shouting down an opinion and saying people shouldn't be entitled to have it, the left do it to the right far more than they do it the other way round. But I would condemn it happening from either camp. Thank you. You're listening to The Nigel Farage Show, live from Washington, D.C. It's 7:46.
Coming up at 8 on LBC, Clive Bull.
British inventor James Dyson has revealed he's investing £2.5 billion on a radically different electric car. But are electric vehicles really the future?
Clive Bull on LBC.
Have I got PPI? Want to know if you've had PPI? Find out with our free PPI check.
We had claimed back PPI in the past, but it turns out there were some lenders we hadn't checked. The service Stanton Fisher provided was absolutely brilliant. We received over £2,500.
But the claim deadline is set for August 2019, so text check to 80800 for your free PPI check. Have I got PPI.com? That's check to 80800.
Your journey is always more pleasurable with Aeroflot Russian Airlines. Our young fleet flies to an enormous range of destinations. Come and experience true hospitality delivered by our expert cabin crew and pilots, made even better by the choice of exquisite cuisine served on board. Then just sit back, relax, and enjoy the comfort of our state-of-the-art aircraft. You'll find you've enjoyed yourself before you've even landed. Fly Aeroflot.
To some, this could sound like popcorn in the microwave. But to a British Gas customer, it's the sound of a thank you. That's because we're thanking all of our customers with British Gas rewards, including things like a Sky Store movie and many more. Join today. Offer subject to availability, conditions apply.
Block management? Oh, it's a doddle, isn't it? I mean, once you've got budget approval, all you need to do is your service charge invoices,
health and safety regulations paperwork, do the cleaning, the gardening, general maintenance, sort out site inspections, arrange contracts, insurance, emergency representation.
Yes, block management. Such a doddle.
Save time and money and cut down on the stress. For complete block management solutions, just call ABC Estates. ABC will take care of all your day-to-day management, leaving you as happy as Larry.
For complete block management solutions, see abcestates.co.uk or call 0800 888 6688.
When you're trying to find the perfect cruise for you, Virgin Holidays knows what's what. We know the length of the water slides, the temperature of the dry martinis, the second the sun hits the horizon, the decibel level of the fireworks, the size of every island we visit, the show times for the poolside movies, cooking time for the lobster, the salt they use for tequila, the name of each hop that makes the onboard craft beer, the height of the rock climbing wall. We even know the thread count of the bed linen. We know what makes a cruise. If you want to know more, visit your nearest Virgin Holidays store. Virgin Holidays. Seize the holiday. ATOL protected.
You've seen it in the press and on the news. The PPI deadline. Isn't it time you got back the money you could still be owed? If you've still not checked whether you had PPI on bank loans and credit cards, at PPI Hotline, we'll check for you for free. And if it was missold, we'll fight to get back what you could still be owed. Just text WIN to 82222.
PPI Hotline. Text WIN to 82222.
This is LBC, the Nigel Farage Show. Live from Washington, call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Tweet at LBC using the hashtag Farage on LBC.
Are you afraid these days to give your political views, your thoughts on the world, in case you might get trolled, discriminated against work, or your life made impossible? So if you're a Brexiteer student who dare not say it, or a Corbynista banker who can't tell his office what he thinks, I'm keen to hear from you. Equally, I'm keen to hear from you if you think I'm completely wrong and free speech is alive and kicking as it ever was. But before that, the online auction. Now, I mentioned this yesterday. I'm looking for someone to come and have a private lunch with me. Franco's Italian restaurant in central London have put this up, and the charity is Global Radio, of which LBC is a part. It's their Make Some Noise charity, and the idea is that it supports small but brilliant projects helping youngsters and their families living with illness, disability, or a lack of opportunity. By helping Globals make some noise, you can make a small contribution that will make a huge difference to people's lives. So the auction prize to have lunch with me is currently open for bids online. It closes 7:45 p.m. on the 5th of October. You have to be over 18 to enter. Go to lbc.co.uk to make your bids, and they are coming in, and it will be on a Friday, and we will do it properly. And whatever your point of view, then we can sit there and we can have a healthy debate and agree to disagree, because that's how things really ought to be. OK, terms and conditions also can be found on lbc.co.uk, and one of those is we have a lively debate, I promise you. Michael in Harrow, are we now frightened that if we say something, our employer might find out, or we might be given a hard time anonymously on Twitter? Or is the country as free as it ever was to speak its mind?
Indeed, yes. I mean, I run a blog within London's arts community. I run a passion for the arts, but my politics align with yours, and I'm Eurosceptic and was a passionate Leave believer. I was quite prepared to stick my head above the parapet and receive a fair amount of abuse for my political views from a number of people who followed me. But what I found quite heartening, at times of some unpleasant abuse, was the number of people who'd contact me through the private channels of Facebook or Twitter, who were working in the arts community. They were passionate, creative, fabulous people who would say, actually, we share your politics. We too are leavers in our attitude, but we dare not speak out on Facebook or Twitter because we have to work with these people. It will lose us our friends and it will lose us our livelihoods.
Yes, Michael, that sounds to me very, very typical. I have met hundreds of people like this, and I've even, believe it or not, I've even known people lose their jobs because they've dared publicly to say they supported UKIP, which has always been a non-violent, non-racist political party with views that some believe in passionately and others perhaps don't like. I mean, think of those foster carers up in Rotherham. You know, been foster carers for years, literally taken off the foster care list and never put back on simply because they supported UKIP. And I think you're right, Michael. I think throughout the arts and many other parts of this country, people are literally scared to speak their mind. They've been put into this sort of state of almost terror of expressing their view. I wonder, Michael, is there anything we can do, do you think, to reverse it?
I really don't know, because only this week, and I want to touch on the no platforming reference that you made 10 or 15, 20 minutes ago. I believe it was Bath Spa University, where one particular therapist applied to do some research into those people who transitioned amongst the transgender community, who wanted to, who then wanted to have treatment, perhaps to have their condition reversed, or their transition, reversed. And he applied to Bath Spa to research this, having been a counsellor who worked with many, many people who'd gone through a transition of sexuality. Bath Spa, I believe, declined his request even for research, and their grounds for declining it were that it was politically incorrect and that it would attract an awful lot of bad publicity. Irrespective of what opinion his research might find, they actually denied him the platform to research a particular argument.
Well, you know, talking of the West Country, Michael, Germaine Greer, who's always been regarded to be a sort of radical speaker on you know, feminist issues and many other things, she was no-platformed at Bristol University last year because they now think she's transphobic. Well, whether they think Germaine Greer is transphobic or not, the whole point about university, surely, is that young people who are being exposed to lots of different opinions, listen to them, then make their own minds up and go out into the world. So I'm worried about all of this. Michael, I thank you. Somebody picked up on the comment. A caller said earlier about the media all being left-wing. The media is left-wing, the Mail, the Sun, the Daily Express. Come on. Yeah, well, fair enough. I did make that point earlier. I think we do have quite a balanced media in this country. And what I like here, Nigel, I bought my EU loving boss a personalised birthday card with a picture of you and Rees-Mogg on the front of it, and he thought it was funny and laughed. And that actually is what it should be like. The fact that someone's got a different point of view should not mean you hate them, think they should lose their job and be excluded from society, and perhaps, for good measure, subjected to a bit of violence as well. That is what has gone wrong. Ollie in Stevenage, good evening.
Hello there, how are you doing?
I'm fine. So, Ollie, are you afraid to speak your mind now?
No, I'm personally not afraid to speak my mind. I mean, the main reason I wanted to call is, I mean, personally, I mean, my political views and your political views are probably quite different, but what I really agree on is what you're saying about, you know, you need to have open conversation.
Yes.
And what really distresses me is when you see the left. I mean, personally, I've got quite left-wing views, but what really upsets me is when you see people on the left actually kicking off, and when they do get violent, and when they see people just shouting and chanting, it just destroys any credibility of the argument that you're trying to have with people. And you know, you need to be able to sit down and actually have just an open and, you know, calm conversation if you want people to try and, you know, think and align with your views. And you know, when that lady who rang up a second ago, she was talking about, I mean, the horrendous thing that happened to Joe Cox, but her killer. Yes. So, you know, well, you know, we should have silenced him. But I mean, one, like you said, you know, we didn't know his views, but also
we never heard it. No, that's right.
But also, if you silence someone, that doesn't mean their views have changed. Your views are your views. Whether you can say them or not is a different thing. And I'd fight tooth and nail.
Well, isn't the limit, Ollie?
Have a view.
Shouldn't the limit, Ollie, of free speech and public discourse mean that we draw a line at the incitement to violence against the individual? Isn't that the limit of free speech?
Yeah, I don't. There should never be any physical harm that should come to someone with their point of view. I mean, there's people. No. I find, you know, there are some people that have, you know, views I would never, you know, that I really find almost abhorrent. I would never, ever, you know, want someone to not have those views. I mean, there was a perfect example I saw. I mean, I personally, someone I don't agree with their views, but there's Ben Shapiro in the US, and I just thought, you know, it'd be interesting to see what he has to say. And I saw it was him doing a university speech, and there were people just shouting safe space at him. And you think, well, what have you achieved? You haven't got anything across. And he's standing there trying to give a speech. And, you know, you've got to let
something, Ollie, in Britain and America is going horribly wrong in our universities. Ollie, we'll agree to disagree, and we'll do it politely and respect the fact we've both got the opportunity in a free world to have different points of view. I don't know how we're going to sort this out, but we do have a real problem. Our rights of free speech are being impinged upon. People are scared to have open, honest debate for fear of what it might do to them, their jobs, their careers, their family. That, I think, is bad news. You've been listening to the Nigel Farage Show here on LBC. I'm back tomorrow evening from 7. Coming up at 10, it's Majid Noel.